direction of President Trump. We are reducing the size of the bureaucracy, getting rid of excess regulatory regulations, and there's also so many agencies and regulatory authorities that they actually step on each other's feet. It's kind of like having a sports game where there are too many referees on the field, like more referees than players at times. If you remove the roots of the weed, it doesn't stop weeds from ever growing back, but it makes it harder. So we have to really delete entire agencies, many of them. Well, there's a few ways to describe it, but the actions end up being the same, which is like reducing the size of government and making the government much more accountable to the people, I think is going to lead to a better outcome for the people. What I've said is that we really have here rule of the bureaucracy as opposed to rule of the people, democracy. So we want to restore rule of the people. And so what that means is reducing the size of the federal government, basically reducing regulation. There's a tremendous amount of over-regulation that's happened over time. And this is an inevitable consequence of a long period of prosperity, is that you're going to get more and more rules and regulations, more laws accumulate over time. And the normal forcing function for getting rid of rules and regulations is war. So it needs to be some kind of existential war, where you have to do a reset in order to avoid being defeated in a war. This is literally throughout history, it's been the main forcing function for clearing out an accumulation of laws and regulation. In the absence of that, every year you get more laws and regulations until eventually everything is illegal and nothing is permitted. And that's sort of the situation we have these days. So, the aspiration here is a reduction in regulation and reduction in government spending, such that the economy is able to grow faster. Maybe the economy can grow at 4 or 5% potentially, in terms of real useful goods and services output, and then government spending can be reduced by about 3 or 4% of the economy, about maybe $1 trillion or more. And the net effect of that would be no inflation from 2025 to 2026. So that would be quite remarkable. And also, if the U.S. government is buying less debt, which I think will be the case, if the deficit drops from 2 trillion to 1 trillion, then there'll be 1 trillion less debt that the government needs to buy, which will drop, of course, the interest rates to drop significantly. And that means people's mortgage payments, car payments, credit card payments, student loans, whatever debt they have, their debt payments will be less. So I think this is something that will benefit the average American. I think some of the things we're doing also will be hopefully helpful to other countries, because with the new administration, there's less interest in interfering with the affairs of other countries. I think there's the times the United States has been kind of pushy in international affairs, which may resonate with a number of members of the audience. And I think we should, in general, leave other countries to their own business. And basically, America should mind its own business, rather than push for regime change all over the place. So, yeah.
So
So I
instead
think
of
this is probably a good thing for other countries too.
so instead of waiting for a war to happen, you went to war against the bureaucracy in the government.
Yes, we're yeah, we're essentially just we're with the support and direction of President Trump. We are reducing the size of the bureaucracy, getting rid of excess regulatory regulations, and there's also so many agencies and regulatory authorities that they actually step on each other's feet. It's kind of like having a sports game where there are too many referees on the field, like more referees than players at times. Now that would be a silly game, if the players can't pass the ball without hitting a referee, But it's kind of getting to that point in the U.S. So there's roughly 450 federal agencies of one kind or another. That's more agencies. That's almost an average of 2 agencies per year since the formation of the United States. So, I mean, how many agencies do you really need to run a country? I'm 99, not 450, that's for sure. So,
And how do you guarantee that all the incredible achievements that you aim to have in terms of savings, in terms of impacting the lives of the American people, are not going to be reversed in 4 years? Typically, the cycle gets reversed every 4 years. Do you think it's going to be so impactful that it won't be reversed? Is there any ways that you can ensure that the progress is going to be continuous?
well, I think we do need to delete entire agencies as opposed to leave part of them behind. Because if you leave part of them behind, it's easy. It's kind of like if leaving a weed. If you don't remove the roots of the weed, then it's easy for the weed to grow back. But if you remove the roots of the weed, it doesn't stop weeds from ever growing back, but it makes it harder. So we have to really delete entire agencies, many of them. And that's not to say there won't be an increase over time of bureaucracy in some new administration, but it'll be from a much lower baseline. So it's a step in the right direction. I think the overarching goal here is to lay the foundation for prosperity that will last many decades, maybe centuries, and yeah, but it will be forever. Nothing's forever. But I think we can strengthen the foundations of the United States substantially.
And what lessons can other governments learn from the US? You say tech support on your shirt. Is that only technology, or is there other things? How do you approach efficiency?
Well, a shocking percentage of the problem, or maybe not shocking for those who know it, but a big percentage of the problem is improving the technology that the government runs on. So the U.S. government runs on a collection of thousands of computers, many of them antiquated, running very old software, and the computers don't talk to each other. So that's why tech support is kind of a real thing. In order to make the government more efficient, you have to improve the technology. You may have read about the example I used recently when President Trump was signing one of the DOGE executive orders of the difficulty of U.S. government workers retiring. Like the maximum retirement rate is $10,000 a month, and the reason for that is because the retirement is entirely paperwork right now. It's manually calculated paperwork that's put in an envelope and then taken down a mine shaft and stored in a mine. And then one of the things that affects the rate at which federal workers can retire is the speed of the elevator in a mine in Pennsylvania, which is bizarre because it should be digital, So then when we said, well, why isn't it digital? They said, well, we have had a digitization program going since 2014. So that's been 11 years. So then we asked, well, so how much progress have you made? And they said, B. You mean you're giving yourself a grade of B? No, we're on the letter B. So we're like, okay, we're going to need to really provide some tech support here. Otherwise, literally, people can't even retire, even if they want to. It's pretty bad. You know, there's a lot of software systems that need to be updated and fixed. In some cases, deleted. Uh, a lot of things that should be automated. I mean, in terms of the number of, say, U.S. citizens that are operating the mine, it's about 1,000 people are working on this mine, where the papers are stored. But they should ideally be working on something else. They should be working on producing goods and services that are of much higher value to the public, to the you know. So I mean, really, even if somebody just grew tomatoes in their garden and sold them at the farmers market, that would be more useful than carrying manila envelopes down a mine shaft. You know, safe to say. So a lot of the stuff is it's like that. You know, it's not like any one thing is particularly difficult, but there are like 10,000 things that need to be improved. You know.
So it's efficiency through innovation rather than efficiency through austerity and cost cutting specifically, right? So you're trying to do both at the same time, maybe focus more on tech support than cutting costs.
Well, by improving the technology, the costs do reduce. So, you know, it's very expensive to have 1,000 people operate a mine with doing pay for retirement, whereas that really should just be digitized and be a computer that's with the information stored in the cloud, and it's very straightforward and low cost.